I'm Raman Dillon, and I'm a representative of the Youth Environment Council, and I attend Hastings Girls High School.
My name is Jothis Joes, and I'm also a representative of the Youth Environmental Council and also from Hastings Girls High School.
My name is Manraj Kaur, and I also go to Hastings Girls High School.
My name is Bernadette Casanti. I also go to Hastings Girls High School.
Yay!
Yeah, so we'd just like to welcome you all to our presentation on the youth perspective and involvement in climate change. Yeah. So, young people, did you know they make up more than half of our global population? So, the youth want to increase their voice and concerns for the global environmental condition of our world today. But the youth feel uncertainty at the risk of climate change. We want to raise our voice, but we're not entirely sure how to, or if we're being actually heard. So, and we want to know what the impact of this climate change will be on our future, because it will directly be affecting our future.
We wish to see a society more environmentally conscious of our consumer choices. We need to unite in changing our rapid demand for material goods and invest in more longer-lasting, environmentally friendly purchases. So collectively, we can affect the way corporate industries manufacture, distribute, and appeal products to their demographics. And together, we want to apply this pressure so that we can get change.
So when we were preparing for this presentation, we thought, where should we start? And we thought the most logical place to start would be asking the youth, what do they really think? So we went onto our social media and we asked
some of our peers
all
about
of our
what they think.
Yeah, we got about 50 replies for each question. Yeah. We asked 3 questions. So the first question we asked was, what is the most concerning global issue for our generation?
And the most of the answers were saying climate change, pollution, and all that. And then we asked, why should the youth care about the environmental changes that are happening? And these are some of the replies, just a few of what we got. And they're saying that it's because this is going to affect our future. If we don't do anything now,
then our future generations will be affected by this, and
Earth is our home. So if we don't look after our home, then who will?
And it's quite clear that for our first 2 questions, it was a very clear consensus what everyone thought. It was that climate change is a huge issue and it's an important issue because it's our future. But for the third question, we asked, what can the youth do in helping these environmental issues? And there was a huge variety of answers that we got. We got so many different ideas. So throughout our PowerPoint, we're going to have quotes that we got from our peers. They're going to be in a light green color and you'll see them pasted throughout our PowerPoint.
Jesus, what are you saying? Are you Caribbean? Okay.
So our first point that we want to touch on is the fast fashion industry. And we decided to talk about this one first because we thought that the fast fashion industry really has us, the youth, as a demographic. They're really targeting us with all the new trends and things. So we thought it would be a really good place to start.
Yeah. So with the industry, the chemicals that are made through the process, they end up in our rivers. In many cases, these rivers are the only clean source for heaps of people around the world.
And not just people, animals as well.
Yeah.
And the whole fast fashion industry and stuff, it's not only an environmental issue, it's also a huge social issue. The bigger countries and the countries that are more rich are taking advantage of people in smaller countries that are working 24 hours a day, and we're destroying their homes.
And there are some facts up there for the fast fashion.
All the waste that it produces, all the water pollution that it has, everything like that. And so we thought, how can we really change this? What can we do? Because when we look at industries like this, it looks so huge to us little people, and we don't know how to start combating that. And what we thought was that even though we feel so small and it seems like such a big issue, any small change that we do will help.
And make a huge impact.
Yeah. So
We can do this by finding local shops that are selling thrifted items. We don't always have to buy new things. We can buy vintage, we can DIY, and we can do all their things. We don't have to buy the best brands. We don't have to buy the expensive ones to stay fashionable or to just look nice in general.
And buy eco-friendly marketed items.
this one here, we have a graphic here which we thought we would share because it's just showing that the richest 10% of the population of the world has 49% of the CO2 emissions, and that's opposed to all the other places. So when we're thinking of blaming, well, like we don't want to put blame on anyone, but when we're thinking about, well, what can we do? And we see that it's actually the 10% of the population, the richest 10%, that is causing the most harm.
So these are the first world countries, as we would call them. We're causing so much damage to our planet, yet we kind of just don't do necessarily anything about that. Yeah.
And I think the saddest part is that the islands are probably the ones that are feeling it most. Those little countries on the islands that are being affected most by the rising sea levels are the ones, and they're probably the ones that aren't contributing anything with their lifestyles.
And as first world citizens, we should adopt the mindset that tomorrow isn't just for us, it's for the people in other countries, it's for the countries that we visit, the travels that we want to do, and the waste that we produce as a contributor, not to just the waste that we're sending to overseas, but to the waste that is produced here but is impacting people all over the world.
So what can we do about this one? Well, we thought the easiest thing to do would be just to reduce and to stop buying so much. I think a lot of the things with all the eco-friendly things that are coming up, a really important thing to remember is that we can't use these eco-friendly marketed items as an excuse to keep buying things. As long as we just reduce anything that we buy, it'll be really good, and just reusing as much as we can.
And we've got a fact up there that says 50% of the world's plastic goes into items only used once. And coffee cups, straws, water bottles and plastic bags are the big 4 contributors of this. And these are items that are convenient for us as consumers. We find them convenient, but they're inconvenient towards our environment, and they're inconvenient in the long-term effect that they have.
And what we could do is maybe just start using reusable shopping bags and takeaway cups, and just those small things can make a huge impact.
Yeah, so next time we go to a fast food restaurant, we can maybe ask them, can you put the food in this Tupperware that we brought? And can we use our own utensils? We don't always have to get the things that they give us. We can say no to them. Have the courage to say no. Yeah.
Right.
So this one here is just our little graphic showing that about 300 million people spend over 5 hours a day on social media, and we just added that fact to really remind you how big social media is and how much of an impact it can have when we're using our social media platforms to raise awareness.
Especially in a time where social media and technology are thriving. Yeah. So yeah, educating. So we think that and this is one of the answers that one of our peers actually gave us as well. So having programs in school from a young age to teach and acknowledge the issues that are going around us will help us in the long term, to teach us of what we can do to help. Yeah. And spreading awareness through social media accounts as well. So the YEC has, Hawke's Bay Environmental Youth Council has a Facebook page where you can go and have a look at all the activities that we do, and there are plenty others like that as well. Yeah.
And just so many people on Instagram, like just anyone, they really do care. And every day I'm scrolling through and I'm seeing so many posts about the environment, all these things that kids really do care about, and they're trying to do their best to just spread awareness and stuff.
And you have to make the effort into looking at sites like this instead of the trending Kardashians news, or what's the trending film, or who's making the most money. We have to look at things beyond just the convenience and the reality of how far.
The world has come in this situation of climate change. Yeah.
And so one of the big things that students across the world have really started to do is the school strike for climate, obviously. And so just the picture on the right, that's actually in Napier. And the way that the protests were organised, it was really important and really impactful because it caught the attention of the government, and that was the main thing. And we've got the quote here that said, students should be particularly committed for choosing the choice of strike as a tactic. And I added that quote because I thought it was really good to show that it's important that we're doing this, that we're striking, that we're going out of class and we're taking our time out to do this, because it's showing just how important of an issue it really is.
And through this, it captivates the attention of the government, and hopefully from there they can make a change, because that's where really the big changes are going to start.
Yeah, because as young people, how much financial or political power do we really have? But if we're able to capture the attention of the government, it will be where the change will happen.
And as we can see by this, Auckland, Wellington and Dunedin city councils have declared that there is a climate change emergency and would like to see that in Hawke's Bay.
Yeah, so the time to act is really now.
And so this brings us to our efforts. What has the Youth Environment Council been doing? And we have actively been involved in beach cleanups around Napier, especially because most of our members are located here. But it's just that effort to know that what we're surrounded by, and to really find out how, and you'd be surprised by how many cigarette butts you find, how many plastic bottles you find, and while it's not our intention to throw them away like that, even if you're putting it in a public bin, you'll find that wind, and you'll find that
Seagulls,
it'll spread. So you need to reduce what you throw in bins and what you are consuming. And the World Oceans Day was a great event, and Bernadette and myself attended, and we had the great opportunity to judge a sandcastle competition. And this was, and children between the ages of 6 to 11 competed in this. And their aim was to portray a message, an environmental message. And we were truly surprised and shocked by the creativity and the knowledge and what they actually understood.
Yeah, like people or kids like 6 to 11 years old, and they already know what course our Earth is taking. They're already so aware. Oh, this is what the rubbish is doing to the turtles. They had like a little sandcastle of a turtle, and like they collected all this rubbish from around the beach, and they were very much aware of what's happening to our Earth. And these are kids so little.
And they used resources from the beach, so those plastics that they did find, unfortunately we didn't have the images, but they found a lot of plastic and they used that, and that was just from the beach alone.
Yeah, so there is progress being done. We are continuing in a path where we could just save the environment, but we all need to do that. It's not just one person, it's not just two person, we all need to do that.
And this brings us to our upcoming events. And we want to be, our intention with screening a film this year was to find a film that appealed to a wide range of audiences, and we chose Wall-E because we thought children would love it, teenagers would love it, and hopefully adults would love it. And this film, if you know much about it, and if you don't, that's all right, come and see it, because the message is the environmental threat that we humans have on the earth, and the potential that one day it's not going to be inhabitable, and that one day our lack of responsibility and our lack of action will mean that our need to overconsume will show an environment that just cannot support it.
And I think it's really good, this way of showing and teaching these lessons instead of like a factual documentary. It's sort of like, in a way, Wall-E kind of makes fun and like satires humans and like the course that we're taking and all the consumption that we do and what it's going to do to the environment. It's sort of just showing us in a fun, like light-hearted way
that it is getting the message across,
and especially
very well.
to the kids. Yeah.
So another event that we have coming up is a quiz night, and it will be held at Napier Girls High School. And so by holding a quiz night, our intention is generally to just educate the teenagers, the youth, the ones who are going to be inheriting the future of what the climate is being like currently. We want to talk to them, we want to educate them about the history of climate change, what we used to be, and the current situation, how we can help, and the future of what we could be if we don't do anything about this.
And we found that a quiz was engaging, and it would open up discussion amongst their peers.
And also help us find out how much knowledge they do have
Yeah,
already.
Yeah. So there's always something to gain, we found.
We are also planning to go visit Rob Berry's sustainable farm, and through this we just want to find out the perspectives of the farming and especially because dairy is such an important industry to New Zealand and its economy. And we don't really know how much harm it's doing, so we want to see how much of a difference it can make through the sustainable farming practices.
And it's going to be really exciting for us because we can all try and reduce things like meat and dairy and stuff, but the ones that are really going to make an impact are those farmers. And the fact that Rob Berry has done such a good job in building the sustainable farm, we're really excited to see it.
And the fact that he's so young, he's only like 27 years old, yet he has achieved so much. He's true inspiration to us. He really is true inspiration, yeah.
And that brings us to the end of our presentation. I think the message that we want you to take away from this is that youth really do care about the environment, and we care about making change.
And we do want to make change.
Yeah, we
we need help though, because there's not much we can do.
We need the adults to listen to us, or just at least respect what our views are, or what we think.
We're willing to learn, and we're willing to be taught, and we're willing to spread that knowledge. And we hope that you can contribute towards this pathway that we're trying to go on. And it would be really nice if we could see you at the film nights, if we could see you with your family, with your children, trying to make this effort and trying to show them a different pathway from what we know as today. Because our reality right now is that we're not acknowledging this. We're pushing it to another day, to another year from now, where you see the same children, maybe different schools, different names, but they'll be here and they'll be telling you about the importance of climate change.
They will be begging you to do something about it, because it is going to affect all of us at the end of the day.
And it's our uncertainty because of what we feel about the future. And we wish to see change and progress.
Yeah. So, I don't know, the next time you go to a beach, maybe just collect a little bit of rubbish, you know?
Help your children, make your children help you.
Yeah.
Make it a fun activity.
Yeah.
Reduce, reuse, recycle.
Yeah, so this is a quote by Greta Thunberg, and I'm sure that you have all heard of her. She's very young, yet she's very passionate about the climate change, and she's achieved so much, and again, she's a true inspiration for all of us.
Definitely.
So you say that you love your children above everything else, and yet you're stealing their future. We cannot solve a crisis without treating it as a crisis. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Great opportunity. Thank you.
Stay seated, please.
Now the blowtorch is.
We're not going to let you off at ease. That was an excellent message, extremely well presented. Clearly the problem is not at your end of the table, it's at this end of the table, isn't it? I'm just curious, how far ahead of your parents are you?
I would say that I have influenced my parents a lot. My mum was really reluctant to purchase bamboo toothbrushes. Just it's a very small item, right? And she's like, but it's $3. And I'm like, Mum, did you ever think that all the toothbrushes I've earned are still present? They're still here. Like, even though we've thrown them in the bin, they're still on Earth.
Yeah, and even when we die, they will still be here.
Yeah, my persuasion skills got me that bamboo toothbrush.
Yeah.
Sold. Councillor Berwick.
Thank you, Chair. As you're aware, no doubt, we did declare the climate emergency at this council a month or so ago. That was an interesting. I had a lot of interesting debates on social media with different parts of my constituency too about that. But you talked a lot about things that you can do. and stuff like that. One of the things I found really useful with my kids, and my younger ones are your sort of age, was I said, go down and have a talk to your grandmother, because she was brought up, her mum, so my grandmother, she brought up 13 kids during the Depression in the 1930s, and knew an awful lot about reuse, recycle, refuse, all that sort of stuff. That's how they lived their lives back then. And so that became ingrained into what my mother was doing. So I said to my kids, go and ask your grandmother, what did she used to do before they had plastic bags? Go and ask her what she used to do before they had plastic bottles and all that sort of stuff. And my mother and my kids had really interesting conversations about that. And in terms of finding out how you can do things and how you can change your life, that's not that long ago that since we've started this whole single-use stuff. And the consumerism is something that's only come in since World War II in a real big way. So go and ask some of the older generation, and I think that some of them make really interesting videos as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Firstly, thanks very much. It was very inspirational to listen to you. Hastings Girls High must be doing something right, and they're doing something very right when they're producing students like you. So you'll be aware that the Regional Council, which is us, we are responsible for the environment here. The rivers, lakes, streams, estuaries, the air, and that probably just about covers it. And there's people my age have done a terrible job over the last 50 years, there's no doubt about that. But what do you think of us now? What kind of job, what's your impression of all the people sitting around this table and the job that they're doing and their aspirations? Do they fit in with you? And we need an honest answer.
I think, yeah.
I think there's definitely been a change, because like plastic bags now, we have to pay for them, and there's more people that are starting to bring their own shopping bags.
Yeah.
There's definitely been a change since these past few years.
Also, you guys just taking the time to listen to us and what we have to say really shows that you really want to change and you really want to.
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think there is that idea amongst teenagers that adults aren't the most confronting about climate change and about reusing and reducing all that. But I think, because I work at a supermarket, and I started when we were trying to ban the plastic bags. And I won't lie to you, I got some customers that were pretty angry, saying that they didn't want to pay 20 cents for a paper bag and they didn't want to pay 99 cents for a material bag. But in months since, I've seen a lot of those customers bring those material bags. I've seen a lot of them wanting to reduce the plastic they use for their big Gs and all that. And I think they've recognised that they need to act. And change is always difficult, and change is always something that we're not willing to accept as smoothly, but
it is something that we are going to have to accept. And I think that most of the adults have accepted that change, which is brilliant. Yeah.
Councillor Barker and then Councillor...
Just two things. Have you thought about running for elected office? I think you're a great candidate. Seriously, I just think about that is that people need to want to see people out there who believe things and believe them genuinely, and I thought it was fantastic. So I'll leave that with you. The second thing I'd ask the Chair and the Council to do is, rather than leave your presentation buried in the middle of the videoing of this report, I'd like the Council to pull it out and put it on this Council website as a report from Hastings Girls High School to this committee, so that people who go on the website can see it immediately rather than have to search through it, because I just thought it was fantastic. I think everybody would love to see a group of young people turn up, articulate, intelligent, and argue a logical position with passion. It's very reaffirming. Let me tell you that. It's just wonderful to watch.
So Drew, can you make that happen?
Thank you.
Means a lot. All we want to do is educate everyone on it.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and
I was just to my Hastings council colleagues, be afraid, be very afraid.
Let's standing in Napier. Hastings is in good shape. Maybe that's falling behind.
You've, what makes you believe in climate change? I mean, where's the evidence for that? You've got the leaders of the free world, or I won't say that, the world leaders saying it's not true.
Yeah.
What on earth would make you believe that there's going to be climate change?
I mean, we really can physically feel the climate change happening. It's getting hotter. Like, I come from India, and the temperatures there are absolutely crazy. It's like so hot you can not bear through it, and yeah, we can physically feel what's happening around us, and we just need to accept that. And some
Temperature occurred way back in 1930. What makes you think
It's
the current
definitely
temperature?
increasing. We
like the
can
whole
definitely.
Well, isn't that climate change?
Settle
Isn't
down,
it? You know,
councillor.
climate change can go hot and it can go cold.
yeah, it can fluctuate. Yeah.
What makes you believe that?
And what makes us believe is like it's just like once you become aware of what you contribute to climate change. I didn't realise how much plastic I consumed, especially single items. And it's not just about what's it like outside. It's not just about what's it like in America or India. It's about knowing that 3 years from now, we don't know what's going to happen. It's knowing that the weather, while it's cold or it's hot, you don't know. You just don't know. And it's that uncertainty and the risk that it poses as the youth we feel.
And I think like looking at the pros and cons of like believing it versus not believing it, if we believe it and there isn't an issue, well, we've just helped the world a little bit more, and there was no problem to begin with. If we don't believe it and there is an issue, well, we're in a lot of problem. However, if we just don't believe it and there's no issue, it's just thinking about what is the best thing for us. And if we're going to lose anything by believing it and by taking change, well, we're not really going to lose anything. We're just going to better the planet even more.
That's a good, that's the best argument.
You've met your match.
Again,
Thank you, Councillor.
I just would like to thank you girls. I thought you were absolutely gorgeous. I was at the local government conference recently, and we had a climate change series of presenters, and the two young girls there, they tended to stand up, and I know you have to be really courageous to stand up in a public forum, but they were, we want. So I was interested in how you would come across today, but you haven't come across saying we want. You know, it's an adult conversation rather than a child-parent conversation where, well, how are we going to negotiate this, you know? You've come and you've told stories, which is, it's just fabulous, and you're living examples. So I do have a question for you, but first world problems, I know, when you walk along the beach, what do you use to put in your, pick up the rubbish with? Because I used to use the plastic bags from the supermarket all the time. That's an issue for me. I live out at the coast a lot of the time. I have problems with I'm picking up a lot of rubbish all the time. Also food waste in the supermarkets. I get brown paper bags now to put my produce in. They don't keep as well in the fridge. I end up throwing out more produce. So there's got to be a balance there. In terms of, we instead of banning all plastics, we need to offer some other solutions as well. The use of the word emergency, I have a problem with climate change emergency, because I think it's a misuse of the word emergency which has made me struggle to support the movement. I think for me sustainability or responsibility are better, more appropriate words. So I'm interested in your responses. What do you think about the word emergency? Is this a genuine emergency, like the house is on fire, we move quick, but...
I mean, I think because we're still standing here and we're still living, like, we can still see the sky and stuff, it doesn't feel like an emergency. But, I mean, only time will tell what happens. And I feel like the way that we use the word emergency is sort of just giving that sense of urgency that, like, if something is going to happen, we should maybe work quickly. Yeah.
And I do agree with your consumption issue. I think we just need to be you need to find that balance between what you need and what you want. If you see, I'm a sucker for this. You see avocados and they're $1 or they're 2 for $3, and you're barely gonna get through one.
Yeah,
And
there's buy 5 or
And it's the convenience. You have to acknowledge how convenient something is to you and how inconvenient it is in contrast.
And we also need to think about like everyone that's affected, I think, because I think a lot of people do think of like climate change, oh, this is the goal, we need to work, everyone needs to make change to do this, except there are some people that can't really make those changes, like people that are like vision impaired and need the plastic packaging to like tell what vegetables are which and this stuff. Yeah, it's different for everyone, and we need to be considerate about like what everyone needs and just make our own steps slowly and in our own pace.
Yeah, we can't just say that this is what we have to do. We have to be adaptable. We have to be versatile, and we need to. Yeah, we just need to think about everyone else's concerns and like adapt to that, and just change with that. Yeah.
I'm happy to move, Chair.
I'll second.
Anyone else wish to comment?
Yeah, I just want one further comment. I'll see
Councillor
you on the
Bevan.
18th.
Councillor-
Thank you.
Since I didn't get a chance to ask any questions or anything, I'm really pleased that you've come here. You've presented this in an interesting and informative way, so that's fantastic. I just want to make the comment that when the climate change emergency request was brought to this council, it wasn't brought by the young people who so strongly support this movement. It was brought by an old fogey. How on earth did that happen?
I would say maybe it's because with young people, you like councils and governments seem so high above us, like we don't really think about going to them first.
Like coming here, we were quite
We had no idea
very
what to
nervous,
expect.
quite scared.
Yeah, and I think it's good that we're getting those connections and realizing that on both sides we both want to listen to each other and we need to work together to do anything.
Yeah, I don't think the youth fully understands how much we can do, because maybe once we did do something, the bigger people turned us down, so we might be a little more scared or a little more skeptical to go up again, but now we know that we can. Yeah.
It's experiences like this that make me want to tell my peers. Actually, I recommend go to the board, do it,
Talk to them.
Just people.
Yep.
Right.
Thank you, girls, for such an enlightening presentation. It was such a delight to listen to you, rather than listen to some old farts around the table thinking they know everything. So again, thanks very much for coming. And it's great to know that the future of the planet is in your hands.
At least in Hastings. You don't know about Mayfair. So we have a mover and a seconder. Did either of you wish to speak further?
Yep, just to say thanks again, and never be afraid of challenging authority, never be afraid of challenging the likes of councils. Just remember, we all put our pants on one leg at a time, unless you're one-legged, of course, but we're all people.
So we have
I'm not sure about that.
motion is to accept the presentation and report. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Accepted. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And you are welcome.
Fantastic. I love it.
Thank you.